This program is brought to you by the partners of A Rood Awakening International. Help others find truth. Support A Rood Awakening International today.
Dr. Alphonzo Monzo explains how mixing and twisting the Bible's instructions with what you put on and in your body creates incoherence with the Aleph-Tav body system of Hebraic letters that govern its telecommunication system, a short-circuiting situation that can only spell disaster. Because it's the end of the sixth day, the sun is set, and this is Shabbat Night Live. Well, Shabbat Shalom, Torah fans. It is Shabbat Night Live with Michael Rood. Mixing and twisting is never good when you see it in the Bible, and it's not good for your body either. As it turns out, it really does matter what you put on your skin and in your mouth, and wrong things will actually create malfunctions in your body's electrical system, causing short circuits and disease. It's the final episode of the Aleph-Tav body system with Dr. Alphonzo Monzo. Also tonight, it's the final Shabbat on the 10th month of the astronomically and agriculturally corrected biblical Hebrew calendar. There, you see it right there. Now, let's meet a couple of people who know a thing or two about that calendar. Angie Clark and Michael Rood. Welcome.
Thanks, God.
Thank you.
Now, regarding mixing and twisting and all this kind of thing, Angie, you had a verse, and Michael has something he wants to say too about this.
Well, it's in Deuteronomy 22 when the priests were instructed not to wear wool and linen knit together.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, and that's fine. Like linen against your skin is okay, and wool on top
as long as they're not combined together, knit together, because it creates a magnetic field.
Oh, okay. So if they went near the Ark of the Covenant, there could be some kind of short circuit there with all the gold in that place, especially even the walls of the tabernacle.
Yeah, it's not that Yehovah was being mean; he was protecting them.
Right. You know. Yeah. Look, don't create a problem here for yourself.
You know how we want to do a fashion statement, and you can't do that. But
so that's fascinating, Angie. Now, Michael, so there's something about this and the Israeli people who know a thing or two about clothing and mixing, and what's the what goes on there?
The suits made over in Jerusalem are all made of one fabric, and that is considered kosher. And if they don't have it that way, they don't sell it.
Okay, so that's, and you said, I think before the cameras came on, that's literally a law?
Yeah, in Israel, in Jerusalem.
They're following the ancient law.
Yeah,
in Deuteronomy.
Wow, isn't that interesting? And Dr. Monzo talks about this too, where certain fabrics have, we talked about frequencies, I think it was last week, and he talks about how polyester and rayon and things like this have the worst frequency, I guess, for your body.
Man-made fabric, yeah.
Right, man-made fabric. And the ones that are most in harmony with our bodies are the ones that are closest to nature. And linen, as it happens, is the most harmonious with your body.
Okay.
So isn't that funny that when people go to the beach, for example, to relax, and when you have your bare feet on the sand and you are literally grounding, and then you create more of that effect when you step in the salt water conducts more of that electricity, that what's the most common clothing people wear at the beach is linen. Doesn't that make sense? We're not even thinking about it, and yet we're doing it. Wow. It's crazy. Yeah, I love it. So, this makes you really think about what you put on your body. Yeah. And Dr. Monzo says, too, that especially underwear, you want it to be cotton. So
yeah, all the ancient jalabias are all linen.
Are they really? Okay.
Yeah, that's what they were. Remember in Jericho, they were hiding the spies among the flax drying on the ceiling.
That's right, because flax is what makes linen, if people didn't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And it's funny that flax, I knew from living in Saskatchewan for many years that flax stubble was always something very, very hard to get rid of. You couldn't even burn it. Like it just wouldn't go away. It was a very hardy plant. So interesting that we can make clothing out of that, and it's like the perfect clothing. I love linen personally.
Me too.
But there's this whole rule in North America that we don't wear it after Labor Day, which I think is stupid. Wear it all winter if I can, but exactly. Angie, Michael, thank you for being here today. Very much appreciated. All right, Dr. Alphonzo Monzo explains how mixing and twisting the Bible's instructions with what you put on and in your body creates incoherence with the Aleph-Tav body system of Hebraic letters that govern its communication system inside, causing a short circuit and how your body operates. So stay tuned for that. First, here is Michael with the Kiddush.
The night of the Last Supper, Yeshua took arton, leavened bread, and he blessed the Most High, and he broke the bread and said, "This represents my body, which will be broken for you." He took the cup, and he blessed the Most High and said, "This represents the renewed covenant in my blood." The following day, on the 14th of the month of the Aviv, there were 2 large loaves on the wall of the temple. And when they took the first loaf down, after that, no more bread, no more leavened bread was eaten. Then when they took the second loaf down, that's when all of the leavened bread in the city of Jerusalem and everywhere else was completely expunged. It was burnt in the fire. That was the rehearsal that was done the following day, just before the Passover lambs were sacrificed in preparation for the Feast of Unleavened Bread. But Yeshua represents in this very thing, in the breaking of the bread that we do, in the Kiddush, in the sanctification, every Shabbat, we remember that his body was broken for us. By his stripes, we were healed. And in the taking of this cup, as we say this prayer in thanksgiving to Almighty God, Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen. Yeshua said, "This is the renewed covenant in my blood. As often as you do this in remembrance of me." Every meal, any time, any Sabbath, any feast, any time that you need to remember his broken body and shed blood, we do this in remembrance of him.
How do you live your lifestyle, or is it more like a death style? Blessings versus cursings. That's what we're going to talk about today regarding the Aleph-Tav body system with Dr. Monzo, who's with us in studio today. Welcome, Dr. Monzo.
Thank you again.
Again, this is not a book, this is a textbook.
Yes.
I mean, if people haven't seen the last 3 weeks, go and see the last 3 weeks. This is crazy stuff. It's going to blow your mind. It's going to, like I said, it's going to melt your brain. This is great stuff. You can learn this system. Now, I promised people last week that we would say how people can learn this system. You actually have a course built around this.
Yes.
How do people do that?
Go to our website.
Okay.
So drmonzo.com. And there will be a link on there for the Aleph-Tav body system and how to get a hold of our health ministry.
Okay.
And so we have the book. We have an ebook for people who don't want to go quite through a textbook and just want to know, how do I apply this to myself? Then the ebook's the way to go.
Okay.
If you really want the meat and potatoes of the science and the history and how to apply this to other people and yourself, you want the textbook.
Okay.
And then we actually have a 5-day, all-day class on training anybody, they don't have to be practitioners, on how to apply the hands-on method in this book.
Wow.
So we go through half the class is textbook and half the class is literally working on other people and learning how to apply the applications.
So even if you're not a practitioner, even if you just want to know this for your family, because as we're going to find out in Love Gift, there are some emergency things you can learn in here. This is just as valuable as first aid.
Yes.
If not more.
If not more.
Yeah, because it's not nearly as invasive as some of the things you might learn in first aid. So yeah, great stuff. So again, drmonzo.com. And again, there are obviously costs associated with these things. So if you don't want to look at it, during Shabbat, look at it after Shabbat. Just take note of the website now and go look at it later. Okay, so today your presentation is called The Letters of Life, Lifestyle versus Death Style.
Yes.
Okay.
So I guess I got kind of popular for this phrase I used in the documentary The Way, where I was talking about how we only really have a choice between a lifestyle and a death style. And if you're living Torah, you have a lifestyle. And anything apart from Torah is basically just a death style because you don't know how to live.
Good point. Okay.
And how's that built into the body? Well, that's because we have these Hebrew letters on the body. So
whether you like it or not, whether you follow Torah or not, too bad. You got Hebrew on your body.
yeah, the language of Yah is on the body.
Yeah.
So you're either living a lifestyle or a death style. And I think we can skip the definition of what the Aleph-Tav body system is. By now, I think everyone knows. But let's recap a couple things here. So everything in the body is controlled by energy points. That's the Hebrew letters and pathways. These points are Hebrew letters and are related to biblical principles. The body works based on the laws of physics and mathematics. The body is our temple, and it works based off of all of Yah's laws. And I call this the universal Torah, that which he spoke. Some of it he recorded, and some of it we just find through science. So the human temple functions based on Hebrew energy points that are related to his word and his Torah. They are mathematical and function much like telecommunication systems in the body, sending messages throughout the body for the proper manifestation function of the human temple. So their function and meaning are thematic, like thematic interpretation, drawing a correlated meaning between the energy point and the biblical meaning.
Okay, so
the letter itself.
Now, just by the way, on the slide there, you had interruption. You meant interpretation. Is that right? Is that which one are we to go?
That's supposed to be interpretation.
Okay, so thematic
right.
interpretation. Okay, good.
That is a spelling. Well, it's not spelled wrong. It's just the wrong word. And that's where spell correct doesn't work. Maybe we do need AI. I don't know.
Oh, no.
We don't want
that.
No AI here.
Okay, so a thematic interpretation. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yes, and then the next slide basically gets into the how everything's based on a legal system again, right? So spiritual warfare, legal system. Blessing and curses, legal system. Ancient Near Eastern covenants are based on a legal system. Physics, legal system. And your temple, of course, is based on a legal system. And what is that system? It's a system of the Hebrew letters on the body. Torah is that legal system, not just the biblical Torah, but all the instructions that Yah spoke forth when he created the world. Some he gave us in his word, the Torah. Others we discovered in the universe as the laws of physics. And now we're discovering a system built into the temple of the body, and I call that the Aleph-Tav body system.
Right, and these are all laws. These are things you're just not going to get away from. They just work, and they have a purpose, and just follow the instruction.
The laws of nature always win in the end. You can't really violate them.
Yeah. Well, like I said to my wife.
Without paying the price.
Well, it's like taking something home from IKEA and saying, don't worry, honey, I know how to build this. I don't need the instructions. And then you end up hurting yourself or hurting the item that you bought.
Especially when you only have one tool.
Yeah, right, and it doesn't work properly, right? But if you follow the instructions, everything works right, and maybe we should take a lesson when it comes to the Aleph-Tav body system.
That's right. I think that's it for the review. So now let's understand the letters of life. So understand everything that we covered now in the last three parts. It's clear to see that Yah spoke forth much of creation. He spoke Hebrew, so he spoke forth the Aleph-Tav. Everything comes from the Aleph-Tav, and everything is held together by the Aleph-Tav. What is the Aleph-Tav? Well, these are all different definitions from the scripture right here. It's the seed, the root, the light, the way, the word, the life, the truth, the beginning and the end, first and the last, the entire Hebrew language, and Yeshua himself. And whenever I go through this list, I always think of that song, Your Life. Is that by Will Spires?
You got me on this one.
But he has a really cool song called Your Life, and he sings about the seed of the Netzer. And so that's what this is, on the Aleph-Tav. And it's a very interesting concept because when you look at other energy systems that have been discovered around the world, like acupuncture, yeah, it's a real system. It really does exist in the body. It doesn't have to be New Age. You can use it as a New Age practice in a cult. You can corrupt anything, just like we could use sex incorrectly or food or water. You could use that incorrectly, but that system flows out of the Aleph-Tav body system.
It's actually very old age.
Yeah, old age is really what it is. So the Aleph-Tav body system is really the seed and the root. And then as that energy system flows, it starts creating all these different branches and then out into the leaves and then out into the fruit. So we're starting from root to fruit here, from the Aleph to the Tav. The physics of the universe are interwoven into the human body, which means how we live out Yah's words will affect how those words' letters function on the body. Thus, we choose life and death every day. We choose cause and effect, blessing and curse. And there's some grace built into this whole system with the flesh. But I don't know if people typically think of it this way, that we're actually choosing the blessing and curses every day. And it's not like we have to wait for our thunderbolt from heaven to strike us because we did something that we weren't supposed to. It's his language is written on our body. So when we violate his words, we're literally violating our own bodies. And then the body starts breaking down because it causes an incoherence to these points on the body.
It brings a new meaning to the temple of the Holy Spirit, doesn't it?
And not defiling the temple.
Right, not defiling the temple and the Hebrew letter. Yeah, wow.
So this next slide talks about the blessing and the curse are built into the body. As we live out our body, or as we live, our body expresses in the flesh how well we're living out Yah's words. Each Hebrew letter can reflect a blessing and a curse. Each Hebrew letter is a seed or the root, thus it will produce a certain fruit. Once we learn the meaning of the Hebrew letter, you can see the symbolic control it has over the body, and you can bring the two correlations together. Therefore, if we violate the letter, we are violating our own bodies because they are held together by his word, which is on the body. So that really gives a whole new meaning to blessing and curses. And then, of course, we have Matthew 7 on here again. Even so, every good tree bears good fruit, but bad trees bear bad fruit. A good tree cannot produce bad fruit, nor can a bad tree produce good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. So, Torah is your lifestyle. Without the Torah, the only thing you have left is a death style. So, what is Torah? I think most people listening know, but just in case some people are new and just hearing this for the first time, the definition of Torah, mostly translated as a law or the law of God. However, the Hebrew word Torah really means teachings and instructions. Also, the word Torah is often used for the first 5 books of Moses. So again, the historical and limited understanding of the word is the first 5 books of Moses, the Torah. But since Torah means teaching and instructions of Yah, it can really be it can really be applied to the entire Bible itself, because the entire Bible is the teachings and instructions. Normally, when someone is using the word Torah, they are using it specifically to refer to Yah's commands, laws, etc. Right? And then we have to ask the question, what does Torah do? Well, there are 7 main things I've found in Scripture. It defines sin and righteousness. It defines love and truth, and those kind of, what is true love? Well, it defines, it blesses you if you obey. It curses you if you disobey. It sets apart and creates covenant. It's what sets us apart. It defines what is spiritual. And it frees us via a lifestyle of instructions from the death style, which is basically disobedience and sin. So it frees us from those things. So it's really not these bad instructions or this harsh law that was put on top of you to weigh you down. No, it's actually instructions of love that really define these things for us and give us a way to live, because we really don't know. We're pretty dumb. And left to ourselves, we would jump off a cliff and fall, and physics would win again.
I'm sure as many folks have heard before, and the analogy put forth is that it is the schoolmaster. So what the schoolmaster, like a parent, teaches you how to cross the road. You look both ways and then cross. Well, even when you're grown up and mom and dad aren't there to help you, you're still going to look both ways before you cross the road. It's a forever thing, and it's not a bad thing. It's not an arduous thing that you must obey. It's if you want to live, not get hit by a car, you're going to look both ways.
Right.
Pretty easy.
And even when it comes to things like food and other things, it's like, well, if something's not food, you can pray over all day long, but it's not going to become food suddenly.
Right.
Or if you go to the top of a building and jump off and say, I'm going to fly in the name of Jesus, you're probably still going to splat. Yes. I don't think he's going to give you Superman powers.
Yep.
So there are certain things we just can't violate. But when you start understanding that these things are already built into the body, You don't have to sit there and violate something and like, where's a lightning bolt coming? And it's like, no, it's already built in. You're causing incoherence to the body, and over time, something's going to start breaking down if it's cyclical, or I guess I'm looking as a habit.
Okay.
If it's habitual. So if you're constantly doing the same thing and you're doing it wrong, well, eventually something's going to break. So what are other ways that the energy systems of the body get out of phase, incoherent, not communicating correctly? Well, here's some physical things on the screen that are related. Scar tissue, physical injuries, where you actually have scar tissue. It creates a interference pattern where the energy can't quite flow through the scar tissue. Tattoos are similar, and that's because most tattoos are scar tissue there with the piercing and the piercing of the skin. Mixed materials, we're going to get into that. Unclean animals, batteries, EMFs, RFs. So we're under all these EMFs and RFs today, and they're basically zapping us. And so we get drained, and then we have to renew ourselves and rest and stuff. Magnets for extended period of time. So short periods of time, magnets on the body, great thing, but you don't want to keep them there, right? Because you think of just like an ice pack. You put an ice pack on, you leave it on for so long, and then you take it off. You don't want to leave it on there for forever. And magnets are the same way. If you put a magnet on your body and you leave it there, it's going to start pulling all the energy circulation to the magnet. Well, short term, that's a good idea. Get the circulation and everything to that area so it can repair. But we want the pathways flowing the way Yah created them, not getting them off course.
So these magnets that some chiropractors have that you put in your pocket or you wear on a bracelet, not a good idea to have those for hours on end.
Right, correct. You want to give yourself a break. Good for the injury, when the injury is done repairing itself, then take it off.
Okay. Same thing with conductive metals like copper bracelets, right? Where they now have copper infused knee braces and things like this, and copper infused this and that. So.
Yep. You don't want to have them on all the time.
Right, because they're conducting the electricity. That's what they're there for.
Yep.
Okay.
Another thing is dirty dead water. Water we would say that's not structured anymore. So water that's been sitting in a pool that's not moving is considered dead water. And that's why baptism didn't take place in non-moving water.
Okay,
yeah, right? You had to have flowing water, you had to have living water. And flowing water in nature is what creates the structuring of the water. And all of our cells have structured water. We could call that plasma water. And when they lose their structure, you start becoming dehydrated. So we need to be drinking nice structured water. Mental, emotional, spiritual traumas, big time. I mean, I don't know how many. I think they say even medically, 80% of all doctor visits are due to mental emotional trauma, usually from childhood, but not always. But just mental emotional is really important. So it's really correct that we get our mind straight and our emotions right, and that we're not holding on to things, that we're letting go and forgiving and doing those type of daily things that we are supposed to be doing. And of course, not living the Torah is the last one there. And there's probably other things we could throw on the list, but those are the big ones.
When Yeshua laid hands on people to heal them, what exactly was he doing? Could it be that he was employing an ancient healing practice long since forgotten? And what if you could do the same thing today to stop a heart attack, bleeding, an allergic reaction, even choking?
But we've had people who were bitten by a poisonous snake, and they did this application, and when they moved their hands, all the poison and the stuff was just sitting at the top of the skin, and they just wipe it off.
How to Heal with Your Bare Hands with Dr. Alphonzo Monzo shows us step by step how to use the Hebrew alphabet to correlate touch points on the body that unlock seemingly miraculous healing capabilities. This teaching is not for sale and it's not available anywhere online. Instead, we'd like to give you this teaching as a thank you gift for donating to A Rood Awakening International. When you donate $50 as a love gift in January, you'll get How to Heal with Your Bare Hands with Dr. Alphonzo Monzo on DVD, Blu-ray, or streaming on the michaelrood.tv app. Donate $100 and you'll get How to Heal with Your Bare Hands, plus a blue marble glass mezuzah with elegant gold accents and a scripture scroll to put inside. Donate $300 and you'll get How to Heal with Your Bare Hands, the blue marble glass mezuzah, and a natural wood 3-dimensional plaque featuring the menorah, the word shalom in both Hebrew and English, and a message of blessing from a Rood Awakening on the back. These gifts are a limited time offer from Michael Rood to thank you for your support. Make your donation today and receive the $50 gift, the $100 gift, or the $300 gift. Thank you. When you donate to receive the love gift, you ensure that these teachings keep coming from a Rood Awakening International. Use your smartphone to scan the QR code on your screen to donate now and receive these limited time gifts. Or call 888-766-3610. Or get your gifts online with a donation at monthlylovegift.com.
So let's jump right into no mixed or mingled seed, because this is a big one here.
Yes, it is.
And this is coming back now. I think we're in the end times, and we're starting to see the things that happened during the days of Noah are coming back. Genetic manipulation. And we can see here in Leviticus 19:19, observe my regulations. Don't let your livestock mate with those of another kind. Do not sow your field with two different kinds of grain, or it says seed in some versions. Don't wear a garment of cloth made of two different kinds of thread. So this is a really interesting concept, because the whole context here is not mixing two different things together. So this is GMOs. So we could get into GMO foods. Is that a good idea? Well, he said not to mix two different kinds of seeds together, where you wouldn't take an apple and an orange and mix them together, or apple and tomato and mix them together and get apple tomato.
Or a tomato and a fish, which is
tomato and
fish as well.
We definitely don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Or, you know, they're wanting to mix monkeys and bears and men together. It's like monkey bear man. I don't know who even wants to think about these things, but someone in a laboratory is thinking this nonsense. And you also see the livestock was the same thing. We're not supposed to take, you know, I don't know, a goat and mix it with a cow. You know, they're two different animals. Cats and dogs don't mate, right? They mate based on their kind. You have dogs, you have cats.
Right.
You know, you have cattle, you have sheep. They're not supposed to be intermixing. So we're not supposed to be mixing the seed. And what we kind of get overall here is, the idea is we're not supposed to be mixing DNA, right? Because what's in the seed? Genetic material. And then all of a sudden, it gives us this weird instruction about not mixing two different types of fabrics, or not mixing two different types of thread in a fabric. And it's like, what is that about? Because that doesn't make any sense, right? That kind of just sounds like, what does it matter? And let's first address some of the issues with the passage. There's another one. This is only actually mentioned 2 times. The second one is Deuteronomy 22:11. Thou shalt not wear a garment of diverse sorts, as of woolen and linen together. Now, really interesting here, because what came first? Well, Leviticus was written first, and then Deuteronomy. And I don't know if in the next slide, I think I get into it right here. Leviticus 19:19, observe my regulations, don't let your livestock mate with another kind. Don't sow your field with two different kinds of seed. Don't wear a garment of cloth made of two kinds of thread. And in my book, I go into the details of really breaking this down in the Hebrew. But when you really get into Hebrew, you find out that's actually what the Hebrew says. The word there really means two different kinds. It doesn't actually mean linsey-woolsey. Now, in some of the concordances, it will say the word is linsey-woolsey. What is the problem there? Because if you go into like Webster Dictionary or something like that, you will find out linsey-woolsey is an 18th century word. How is an 18th century word an ancient Hebrew word? Well, that's impossible.
Yeah.
If it didn't come until the 18th century, well, it's not really there. So then when you go into an etymological dictionary, again, of the Hebrew, you find out, no, this word literally means two different kinds. And then when you get into Deuteronomy, what you see there, it says, do not mix two different kinds, like mixing wool and linen together. That's an example. It's not the definite instruction of only wool and linen. It's like giving you an example. Don't mix two different things like linen and wool together. So on the screen here is some of my research. I did all kinds of measuring the different types of fabrics on the body and how it affects coherence of the Hebrew points on the body. And this is a summary. All the real details are in the book. But what I found is 100% organic natural fibers in one garment are best. It's best to avoid mixed or mingled threads in a garment. And what I found with this is it's literally the thread itself. So when they're making a thread that you actually use to make the garment, it's the thread itself that's mixed. That's the problem. So that almost is like getting back to the DNA. So if we could say, what is the DNA of your garment? Well, what's it made out of? What's made out of thread? So the very thread itself that's being used to make the garment is what it's really, I think it's hitting at here. And that being mixed is the problem. So if that thread is half wool or half linen as the example, then there's a problem when you make that garment out of it. And it's going to start creating incoherence to the body.
That makes sense. I mean, what do you do with thread to make thread? You twist it.
You twist it.
What is a DNA? It's like the double helix.
Yep. And the whole idea of mixing and twisting is a lot of where we get witchcraft, the mixing and twisting of the DNA. So avoid all synthetic materials in the garments. Now, layering different types of garments is fine, I found. So if you had 100% linen and 100% wool, and they were layered, it wasn't a problem. So if you had 100% linen dress shirt and a wool jacket, that's fine, because they're not the same thread, they're two different garments. So the idea of layering really isn't a problem. And it is best not to wear metal on the body that we find. And what I found with the metals is it seems to be the alloys. Almost all forms of metal today are mixed, which is really interesting because when you look at the tabernacle, they were made out of pure metals. 100% gold, 100%, I think, copper. I don't think it was bronze and brass. Bronze and brass are mixtures of copper and alloy. But copper is the original metal. It doesn't have to be mixed. And 100% silver. Really interesting. And how did they know how to do that today, but we don't? Because today they say, oh, well, gold's it would be too weak. And it's like, but they were doing it back in the tabernacle. They were able to make pure gold, 100% gold. And so they knew something that we have lost. So I think if we had pure 100% metals, they would be fine. And of course, putting them in the body is really bad, because if you have an electrical system in the body and you have metal in the body, well, it's going to reroute the energy, right?
So we're talking about like replacements of certain body parts that are made of metal, or like titanium.
Titanium and replacement. Now, usually they use titanium because they say it's hypoallergenic, right? But what they're not thinking about is titanium is known for stealing free electrons, negative electrons. Well, you don't want to be stealing free negative electrons. And so that's going to mess up with the plasma energy circulating through your body. So metal in the body is going to cause interference. So if you have metal in the body, you really need to work on yourself.
If they're going to steal electrons, that means we're going to have free radicals.
That's right.
Run around. You're going to have to really up the ante on antioxidants.
So they figured out the whole allergy thing. Oh, well, this metal doesn't cause any allergies, so it must be safe. But again, they don't understand the electromagnetic principles of the body, so they're not thinking about how does this metal affect energy circulation in the
Never
body.
mind a metal in the teeth.
And metal in the teeth. We know there's been plenty of work done in the holistic dental field to say how important the teeth are, because pathways go through all the teeth. So.
And I've just noticed what you said up there. If we could go back there just for a second in that chart, how positive some of these fabrics actually are. What are we seeing there?
Yeah, so, and we were using a life energy meter. It's a very interesting meter. I'm trying to think what it is. It's not scalar, but what people would call the, not ether, I'm trying to think what the name of it is, but they call it the life energy. It's an energy that really comes off of all living organisms.
Like an aura, if you will.
Yeah, orgone, I think they call it. Orgone energy. And it's really interesting. I've used this to test corn chips and corn seed. So we got GMO corn seed and heirloom seeds and GMO corn chips and natural corn chips, and you have to use the exact same weight and measurement and everything, so it's exactly the same because it's a really sensitive meter. And it's really fascinating to see that the GMO corn energy is very low. And then when you put the real corn on the meter, the energy shoots way up. So showing again that the GMO stuff is not the same as what
it's almost like the Kirlian Photography. Okay. So does this mean when we see linen at 1500, that is the most positive thing you can wear on your body?
Yeah, linen.
Okay.
So why do you think the priests were told to wear linen? And linen is very breathable and doesn't allow you to sweat, and their feet had to be bare. So I see the actual tabernacle as an electromagnetic tabernacle itself. And when they were going into that Holy of Holies, they had to be grounded, and they had to make sure they weren't sweating and they had the right materials. So, or otherwise they were going to get zapped.
That makes sense. With all that gold around and all that. Yeah, the big gold box. Yep.
And even cotton's good, and you can see natural silk, wool, leather, if it's 100%. It was pretty good, but then when you start looking at these other materials, not too good.
No. It's funny, like linen, you think of, people are most relaxed, let's say, at the beach. Why? Well, first of all, you're grounded, you're barefoot, you're in the seawater, which is conducting electricity. Yeah. And what do people like to wear at the beach that they don't wear normally? You like to have some linen.
Yeah.
Linen pants, how much beach wear, how much summer beach wear is linen?
Yeah.
Because you're relaxed. And maybe we should take a hint and wear it all the time. Who says you can't wear it after Labor Day?
That's right. And now what we're going to need is some good Hebrew clothes makers.
There you go.
Bring this stuff back.
There you go.
For the most part, for men, it's pretty easy to find 100% cotton clothing. It's getting a little bit harder now. For women, it's really bad because everything they've promoted for women is tight and see everything, and it's all stretchy.
Spandex stuff.
And it's like, well, look what it's doing to your body. That's not really good. And we wonder why disease is on the rise.
And I would assume that what's right next to the body would be probably most important. So undergarments, make sure they're cotton, not plastic of some kind.
Well, and look what we've found with, one of the number one causes for breast cancer is correlated to the teeth. But number two is the underwire bra because it's so restrictive. And of course, the breasts have all this lymph. And so they're supposed to be filtering out all these toxins. But if you have an underwire bra that has metal and it's restrictive, well, now you're blocking the energy flow, which is going to block the lymph flow, and the toxins can't get out. So you're creating a garbage can there that can't recycle the toxins, and it's only a matter of time until problems occur there.
Makes sense.
This really makes you think about all these type of things. So what I was talking about is on the slide now. So, my mistake. This is a different, it's the same passage, but this is actually now talking about cutting the flesh and tattoos. I thought this was a part about the mingled seed. I don't think I broke that down in the Hebrew on the PowerPoint, but I did break it down in the book so people can look at all the Hebrew words and stuff. Leviticus 19:28. You shall not make any cutting in your flesh for the dead, nor tattoo any marks on you, for I am the Lord. And that's Leviticus 19:28. Interesting here, this word in your flesh has a bet in front of it. You can see that in black, the prefix, which means in. And the word basically means flesh or body. And then there is a suffix of yours. So in your flesh. Okay, translated correctly. The next word here for the dead has a lamed as a prefix, so it means unto in regards, to or towards. And then the nun pe shin is a word for soul or life. So that got me thinking that this is not actually talking about doing things to the dead. I've always been taught that, but when we really look at the translation, it really means in regards to the soul or in regards to life. And what is in the blood? The life, which is the soul. So is it pointing to the effect that the flesh has the soul or life in it, in the blood? The soul is in the blood, and if you cut the flesh, you often infect the blood where the soul is contained. More importantly, the energetic effect of congestion, which then causes a problem in the ATB points, the Aleph-Tav body control points. So I'm really wondering if the proper translation here is we're not supposed to be making any cuts or tattooing the body, not in regard to the dead, but in regards to your soul or your life. because what's going to happen with infections. And now today it's getting even crazier with the ink, all the toxins in the ink, and now they want to go to nanotechnology ink, which is like, okay, so are you going to put technology into people by tattoos? I've even seen videos where they have tattoos that you can actually operate devices with. They're actually making it where you can have a tattoo on your hand, and it's like a screen, and you can actually operate it, and it operates your computer or something.
Talk about a mark of the beast.
Talk about mark of the beast, for sure. So it's like,
wow.
whoa.
Goodness. Well, not to mention too, anytime, I don't know if people know this, or you and I know this, but anytime you hear the word nano, that means it crosses the blood-brain barrier. Nano meaning super, super small. And super smart. That is going to get into your brain too.
Yep. And there's a lot of things naturally that are nano size. So nano size isn't a problem. But nanotechnology, when you're talking about a technology or a little bot, that's nano size, you don't want that in your body.
No. I'll bet you did not know that being an Ambassador Club member gets you exclusive early access to tickets to in-person events right here at a Rood Awakening headquarters. And I'll bet you didn't know that Ambassador Club members also get private invitations to surprise sales and other appreciation events, not to mention special gifts, cards, and other nice stuff. So why do ambassadors get all these perks? Because Ambassador Club members are the ones who keep the lights on, who make sure that new teachings keep coming, and they're the ones we can count on because they're committed every month. The Ambassador Club is an automated donation program of $100 a month or more if you'd like. So if you appreciate the consistency of a Rood Awakening videos, social media posts, events, and most importantly, people to pray with you on the phone and help answer your questions, be a part of the consistency that makes it happen. Join the Ambassador Club.
I think the Aleph-Tav body starts to give us a little bit better perspective of what do these strange passages mean, because we've argued about them for years and they kind of seem like, oh, that doesn't apply to us anymore. And it's like, well, do all the instructions still apply to us or do they not? And if they do apply, is it we just don't understand why he was instructing these things? If we start looking at ourselves as a temple, does that give us a better understanding of why he said not to do these things? So let's look at this. This is 1 Peter 2, 4 through 5. It says, coming to him as to a living stone, rejected indeed by man, but chosen by God and precious. You also, as living stones, being built up as a spiritual house, a holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. So through Yeshua HaMashiach, we are supposed to be these living stones. And if you make me an altar of stone, living stone, you shall not build it of hew stone, cut stone, for if you use a tool on it, you have profaned it. Well, isn't that interesting that if we're living stone, which are natural, and we're supposed to be untouched and unprofaned, and hew stone is stone that has been formed or a tool's been put to it, and that profanes it, is that giving us some type of symbolic meaning as to why we're not supposed to be cutting our body if we are living stones and we are a living tabernacle? Maybe there's a correlation here. So if we are living stones like the spiritual altar, we should not be cutting upon the flesh. So from an ATV viewpoint, cutting like surgeries, tattoos, create scar tissue, and that causes major congestion to the energy circulation in the body, which then can cause many health issues, headaches, migraines, seizures, etc. And really, you know, the list doesn't stop because it just depends on where do you have a tattoo or where do you have a scar tissue that's blocking flow of energy in the body. So this gives us a whole new understanding of how that works.
Well, we were talking before the cameras came on of someone that I know that has surgery in her left knee from having an ACL surgery. And that same person has a thyroid condition. And you showed us in your book here that that follows
the path.
Follows the path. Yep.
Yes, it does. So this one gets into another one. It's kind of another direction here, talking about a lot of the things we see in the occult world or in New Age. Is it New Age? What have they stolen? What are they perverting? And the big one is the 7 wheels of light. So on the body, you have these 7 wheels of light. In a false system, they call them chakras. But I believe the 7 wheels are actually mentioned in Ecclesiastes 12, where it's talking about the wheels. They are really called the wheels of light, and they are actually named by their color. So it's actually the red wheel and the orange wheel. And of course, there's one for each of the 7 spinal plexuses. So this is something really important for people to know. There's literally spinal plexuses. And so these are these major areas of the spine where there is like a nerve bundle. And you have 7 major spinal plexuses that come off of the spine, right where these energy centers are. Isn't that interesting? You also have 7 major endocrine glands at these locations. And then each one is related to one of the 7 cycles of the Aleph-Tav body system. And of course, they're the 7 colors of the rainbow. Now in the occult, they have this whole idea of the chakras, and then they have all these other things. And like alpha, omega chakra, and the Kundalini serpent spirit, and all of you've heard these kind of weird concepts. Why this is important. One very interesting aspect of the 7 wheels of light is that they're the only energy system of the body that communicates to the outside world. So almost all the other energy systems are internal only and do not communicate to the outside world. So I said, warning, this is the reason there is so much misinformation about them, and the reason the occult uses and makes false chakras to try to take over the communication inside and outside of the body. Do not get these confused with so-called chakras that contain more than 7 or use names like alpha, omega, Kundalini. Those are the false systems that they usually install over top to override the wheels of light. Therefore, I do not condone using yoga, New Age methods, or consulting spirit guides, or trying to manipulate these energy centers using these types of things. And so this is what they're doing, is they're trying to interfere with our communication directly to Yah and to the outside world. And so that's why you see all this stuff about this type of energy system. Because if they can interfere with this, they're interfering with how your body works and who and what you're communicating to.
Okay, makes sense.
Further, when you look at the, oh, it might not be here. Yeah, I have it here. Kundalini is really a false representation of the governing pathways in the body and the breath of life. And when you look at, there's one governing pathway called the breath and blood governing pathway. And when you look at it, it kind of makes this zigzag function all around the body and kind of goes all over the place. So what they do is they come along and they say, oh, look at the serpent spirit. And the Kundalini serpent spirit, and they try to install that over on top of your body, and it's like, no. We don't want any of that. We just want the breath and blood governing pathway the way he created it to be, but you know, they can never leave it go. They want to make a counterfeit version to hijack your body's systems. So they get everyone into these occult practices, and they think they're freeing themselves, but they're really not. They're really installing the serpent's way of doing things over top of Yah's ways.
This seems very much like ancient Hebrew astronomy versus astrology and horoscopes, taking the same shapes that the Hebrew people identified and counterfeiting it and making it tell the future and all that type of stuff.
Right. And that's what I have here on this slide. What I find interesting is often the ancient cultures hid wisdom in images. Now, in the chakra systems, and chakra is a Sanskrit word that means wheel of light, they have these flowers for each of the chakras, and each one has a different number of petals. And it's like, well, does that have any meaning? Well, it's really interesting. I don't know how they figured this out, but they just happen to do it. You can see the base one is 4, and then 6, 10, 12, 16, 96, 1,000. And some of this breaks down a little bit because we don't have exact numbers, but all the way up to the thyroid or the blue wheel, we can see that the base actually has 4 nerve branches that come off of that plexus. And there was 4 petals in the flower. The next one, there's 6 nerve branches, and it was a 6-petal flower. The next one's 10 nerves, and then 12 nerves, and then 16 nerves. It's like, could they have known? And they hid this information in an image? And we look at the images and we go, oh, that's really New Age and weird and occultic, or were they actually hiding some information there? And then when we get to the pituitary pineal, which is the cervical plexus, it has at least 30 nerve branches we know of, and some go into the brain, so it's possibly there could be almost 96 there. We don't know exactly, but the other numbers line up, so you have to wonder. And then the last one would literally be the cranial plexus, which goes into the brain, and it's very possible there could be over 1,000 branches in the brain, because we don't really know a whole lot about the brain. We like to think we do. But isn't that interesting how those numbers work out there? So is that occultic, or is it just some hidden knowledge that has been hidden from us and really used to mean something? And the fact that we have these nerve plexuses right where these centers are. And you think if there's a nerve plexus, it's putting out a huge electromagnetic field. So is that the light that comes off of these different areas related to the 7 colors of the rainbow? And I like to add in there, I have the proper 7th color of the rainbow is white, which represents 7th cycle, which is the light, the source. And when you think about it, what happens when you take pure white light and you pass it through a prism?
It turns out to all the colors.
It turns out to all the colors. And I think we miss that one because oftentimes when we're looking at the rainbows, either they change the colors of the rainbows and add a 7th one in there that's just a lighter shade of blue, which makes no sense. Light blue and dark blue are still blue. You could do that with all the colors. So you're not really inventing a new color here, you're just changing the shade of the color. Or you get into some other practices and all of a sudden they only have 6 colors in the rainbow and it's a different rainbow. Well,
gotcha.
And I think you know where I'm going there. So
the modern rainbow.
Yeah, the modern rainbow. So we want to remember who's the source, and the source is white. So a lot of times in the sky, you don't see the white because it's clear, you know, it blends right in. 3rd cycle pathways. So here's another really interesting correlation to tie into scripture. So we talked about the messenger pathways, and there's 12 of them. So there's 12 messenger pathways. And there's 2 messenger pathways per cycle of the body. Now this is 3rd cycle, so you have 2 pathways here, one on the left and one on the right. The one on the left is called blood messenger pathway, and the one on the, my fault, the left is blood messenger pathway, on the right is head and vision messenger pathway. It's all green because 3rd cycle is green in the body. And this is the pathway that controls and governs the blood and blood functions. It's also directly related to the liver, the gallbladder, anger, the head, the eyes, the brain, the heart, the ears, and there's opposite colors here, red and green. And the reason why colors are often opposite is because the color you're seeing, again, if you remember the video that all goes all the way back, and I think that was episode 1 or 2, they were talking about how the color you're seeing is the reflection of the vibrational frequency that's being reflected. So if you see a leaf as green, it's because that's the wavelength that's being reflected. But what really is the color that's being absorbed? We don't know. We only know what the color is being reflected. So maybe a leaf really is a different color, but we see it as green. So if you think of blood in the body often looks like this greenish blue color, but then when it gets out into the light, it's red. And you know, they give you chemical reasons why that happens, but it's also because of the light and how it's reflecting. So when it's out in the light, it's red. When it's in the body, it looks like a greenish blue. Interesting how the opposite in colors work. But look at this passage here in Leviticus 14:14. It says, "The priest shall take some of the blood of the trespass offering, and the priest shall put it on the tip of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and on the thumb of the right hand, and the big toe of his right foot." Now, if you look at these 2 pathways combined, since they work together, you notice the pathway goes to the big ear on the right, the big thumb on the right, and the big toe on the right. It actually goes to both toes, but there's the big toe on the right. So you happen to have these energy pathways that are related to blood and these organs. And if we read these passages again in different parts of the Bible, different translations, it goes more into the different organs that are used here for the trespass offering. And so this is also the peace offering that's used to prepare the priest sometimes. So you see this one is referring to the trespass offering, but there's also a peace offering where they do almost the same thing to prepare the priest. And they often talk about the different organs and bringing the blood and the fat, and third cycle has to do with fat and blood and the organs that you use. And it's the organs and the fat surrounding the liver. And it's like, isn't that an interesting coincidence that you just happen to have this pathway that goes through those areas? Otherwise, you're sitting here reading this and you're going, is this some weird type of witchcraft he's telling the people to do? Why are we putting blood in these 3 locations? That makes no sense.
Right.
But then you find out that there's actually an energetic reason for this. Really interesting.
That becomes very interesting, yeah. The mystery seems to melt away once you see that.
Yes. So next I put on here what's an easy way to work on the blood messenger pathway, because maybe some people want to work on that pathway. So you're touching the 4 and the 22 with opposite hands. So your left hand is going to the left 4, which is right on the back side of the occipital. And then the 22 right here underneath the collarbone, you're just touching on the opposite side. And then you're just gonna hold those 2 locations for about 5 minutes. And that will help the blood messenger pathway function correctly. And if you look at the screen there, you can see all the correlations related. Well, maybe it's not all of them, but as many as we can kind of list and we've figured out so far that are related to that pathway. So you can see some very interesting things that you can affect just by this simple application.
So left up there, right over here.
Yep. Now that would affect the left pathway. And the pathways are bilateral. So if you wanted to do the right pathway, you would just switch it.
Oh, okay, all right.
So now you're affecting both sides of the body. Very simple. And then I also gave you the head and vision messenger pathway. So if you want to do this one, it's actually a 2-step procedure. So the first step, the left hand is going to the left 12, and I think maybe hopefully everyone remembers that's on the side of the neck. And then your right hand is going to the 20, which is literally right above your eye. So it's right on the forehead. That's where the rush is. The rush means a head. It's on the head. And you're just touching those 2 points for 5 minutes. And then step 2, it says only the right hand moves. So the Aleph-Tav body is as simple as Simon says. So all you really have to know is what hand to move and what hand stays. So if it doesn't tell you to move the left hand, it doesn't move. So that right hand then moves to the coccyx. So you kind of just move it down to your coccyx and you hold that for 5 minutes, and that's how you work on this pathway. And you can see the correlations there. And this is the last slide. We have 2 different books. You have the textbook on the left side, that's the big textbook, and on the right side is the ebook for those who just want to know how to work on yourselves. It's, I don't know, about 150 page ebook.
And this one is 400
and that
plus,
is,
something like that?
Yeah, like 450 some pages. So quite a difference in price, but it's also quite a difference in the amount of information and how deep you want to go.
Wow. This has been a wonderful series, and I hope people have gotten the love gift for this month. If not, get it, because this is all to do with the emergency methods of doing this.
Yes.
In the love gift. Stuff we don't necessarily want to put on YouTube. That's why you need to get it on the love gift. There's the information on the bottom of your screen of how to get these books from Dr. Monzo's website. Again, if this is Shabbat, just mark it down, wait till after Shabbat and get them after Shabbat. And then here is how to get it through the love gift there on the bottom of your screen there. Dr. Monzo, thank you for joining us.
It was a pleasure.
And I guess people will see more of you in the love gift if they get it this month. And,
absolutely.
I think we have a heck of a lot more to talk about, so we're going to have you back sometime.
Yeah, I would look forward to it.
Appreciate it. All right, thanks again. Thank you for joining us for this series. Hope you learned a lot. Blew my mind. Hope it blew your mind, and hopefully you'll have a whole new way of looking at the body, how to heal things, and how simple it really can be. So again, go to Dr. Monzo's website, get the love gift, and we will see you next week on Shabbat Night Live. Shavua Tov.
Whenever and wherever you are watching this broadcast, it represents hundreds of man-hours of production and post-production, and then it goes out to the world in several different languages. Why is this possible? It's because people like you support this ministry. We do our best to get this out freely to the entire world. Freely you have received. Now, this is your opportunity to do as Yeshua said, and freely give. Shalom, Torah fans. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with a friend. Tap the subscription button and the bell icon. And I promise to update weekly with in-depth biblical research. Be sure to download the new michaelrood.tv app for both mobile and home devices for even more commercial-free content.